Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome to the first installment of Youth Foresight Forum, where we will discuss the future of legal studies. Acting as the moderator today, I am Faiz, Naqib, Amirul bin Ramli, and joining me today are two esteemed guests. First of all, we have Associate Professor Dr. Zulkifli Hasan, who obtained his PhD from Durham University, United Kingdom. Dr. Zulkifli Hasan was a former Dean of Faculty of Sharia and Law in University of Science Islam Malaysia, and currently the Deputy Rector of Student Development and Community Engagement in IIUM. Nevertheless, the next panel here today we have is Associate Professor Dr. Sonny Zulhuda, who we can argue or we can say as a native in IIUM. He obtained all of his degree, master, PhD from IIUM. And he's currently a lecturer of Ahmad Ibrahim Kulliyyah of Law. So how are you, Doctor?
Alhamdulillah, okay? How are you? Thank you, Faiz, for having me.
Doctor. All right, thank you.
So, how are you? How is everyone? Keeping safe and alive? Safe and healthy and in good form, inshallah.
I'm not going anywhere. I've been in my room for about 2 weeks plus.
Wow, inshallah, that's the best, inshallah.
Inshallah. We're still trying to connect with Dr. Zul here. But then again, I would like to thank you so much, Doctor, for spending your time with us. It is truly an honor to be sharing the screen with you.
My pleasure.
Okay, so for the viewers' information today, both of our guests here have vast experience in the legal field and the academic field. In particular, Dr. Zul, who is an expert in Islamic banking and Sharia, while Dr. Sonny is an expert in cyber law and information governance, security, as well as personal data protection. So we can see here today that our discussion here will be quite, for me, insightful. We can cover a wide range of perspectives from both the civil and Sharia. So before I think we move on to our first question, or before we begin our discussion here today, to our viewers, here are some things that I need to address. Well, first of all, this forum here today will be in Dwi Bahasa. Although we will try to converse in English as much as possible. If we don't manage to speak in English or we don't know how to elaborate the term, we will speak in Malay. Secondly, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to type down the questions in the comment sections. I will address the questions accordingly. And thirdly, don't forget to like Facebook page of PKPIM for the next installment of the Youth Foresight Forum. So is Dr. Sonny okay there? We're still waiting for Dr. Zul. It's okay, never mind. So Dr. Sonny, like currently, how is you? How are you, and how's your family? Are you guys okay?
Alhamdulillah, we are all fine. Thank you for asking. And my family is now enjoying staying at home. We try our best.
So currently, who's the one going out buying groceries? Is it you? Is it your wife? Who are in charge?
We actually have. We take turn. Actually, we take turn.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm glad when I try to go for to get food, and this supermarket actually they have proper labeling for everything, so I don't have to be confused. For example, you want to buy any veggies or anything, the labels are all there, so I'm fine with that.
You don't need a personal shopper then.
No.
Alhamdulillah.
There was this little interesting experience. I went to this groceries. I was supposed to buy this called, I don't know, you call it daun bawang, you know, daun bawang. Yeah, I actually tried to find daun bawang near the bawang, you know, but I didn't find it. So I realized it is actually in different rack, in different place. That's an interesting experience.
So Alhamdulillah, your grocery shopping is not in harm, and you guys can take turns accordingly. Alhamdulillah, we have a stable, stable home, happy life. Okay, Dr. Zulkifli, you're back. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
How are you back there?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very, very good. Alhamdulillah, I just arrived from IIUM actually.
Oh,
long journey.
Okay.
So about 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah, it has
Okay.
been a hectic day, right? So the extension of
yeah.
MCO until 20th April. So there's a lot of things that's happening. But then again, thankfully, IIUM has already extended the semester. Delayed, postponed the semester to 1st of June. So any MCO, never mind. There's no class at all. So, Dr. Zul, okay? If both of you are okay, let's move on. Like, maybe before we move on to the main topic of discussion, before we analyze the future of legal studies itself, it might be beneficial for me, for the audience knowledge, for us to maybe to have an understanding or had evolved throughout these years. So since both of you since both of you are guests, since both of our guests here today are alumni of AIKOL themselves, who's senior, Dr. Sonny or Dr. Zul?
I don't know. I think we were almost. I think I just happened to join 1 year before Dr. Zul. That's if you call it senior. But now he's my boss.
Right. So perhaps okay. But then again, like both of you are both law graduates at the same time. Now you are educators. Maybe perhaps you can share with us a few of your experiences in the past during your LLB days, and maybe note on how different it is from what you observe today. Maybe who wants to go first, Dr. Sonny or Dr. Zul?
Please, perhaps Dr. Zul, perhaps.
Dr. Zul.
Okay. Thank you, Faiz. Okay, and also to Dr. Sonny and Farhan and everyone. Okay, thank you for the invitations. Wonderful opportunity for me to be given to this opportunity to share with all of you some
Thank
insights.
You so much.
Okay. Talking about IIUM or talking about Kulliyyah of Law, even during our times, not Ahmad Ibrahim Kulliyyah of Law, just Kulliyyah of Law. I think when I talk about AIKOL or talk about Kulliyyah of Law, I'm very emotional about it because I'm indebted so much to IIUM and to Kulliyyah of Law. My personal development, personal career, I really owed and contributed by IIUMs. So in terms of my experience in the Kulliyyah of Law, I think I'm very fortunate because I had experience, studied in Lebah Pantai, and then in PJ, and then moved to Gombak campus. One of the, I think, pioneers to explore a lot of things in Gombak. Not as it is by today. So the first thing that I would like to share with all of you is that the academics and the professors. During our times, very fortunate to have very notable and well-known tops fraternities, legal fraternities like Tan Sri Harun Hashim, Tan Sri Wan Hamzah, Tan Sri Syed Agil Barakbah, and also Professor Ibrahim, or the late Professor Ibrahim, and also combination with young academics, very energetic academics. Right now they are no longer young, with all of you. I still remember that the approach very, very different. Why? Because like Prof. Allah Rahman, late Tan Sri Harun Hashim, very simple. The final exam, just one line questions. You can get a full marks. And the teaching methods, just sharing experience, okay, and so on. Okay, number one about the academic and senior professors. Okay, and number two about the teaching and learning facilities. I still remember until now, we need to wake up early and go to the library, okay, and and then we need to queue, okay, in order to photocopy cases, law cases. Okay. So meaning that we need to make sure that, okay, we have the reported cases, the original cases, and we need to line up, to queue, to photostate, to photocopy, and then we need to read it. Not like today, you have very rich resources. During our times, if we can borrow the DVD of LexisNexis or MLJ, or very proud of it, a few thousands of cases, okay, but still we need to photostate it, we need to photocopy it. Okay, so right now you enjoy the resources, you can read it online, wherever you are, LexisNexis, Hein Online, okay, CLJ. And number three, the method of teaching, sir. The method of teaching. Previously, the method of teaching is very conventional, very conservative. Okay, how to read cases, and then we case studies. Okay, very conventional. Okay, not like today. You have different tools of learning law or reading law. Okay, the ICT and so on. Okay, and finally, what I would like to share, the difference with today is about the curriculums. Okay, the content, the core contents of the curriculums. Okay, because I involve, actually I involved in developing the law curriculums, particularly when we developed law programs in IIUM. So I compile and analyze all curriculums from all 10 universities in Malaysia that offered, okay, law programs. Okay, there are 7 public universities and 3 private universities, MMU, Taylor, and Hubs. So from my experience, okay, developing these programs, okay, and my experience, okay, studied or read law in AIKOL or Kulliyyah of Law, we can see that during my times, okay, the contents of the curriculum are little bit different. Whereby, okay, during today we are more focusing on the professional practice courses. Okay, we call it a professional courses. Okay, whereby during my times we don't have to do our practical. We don't have to do our internships. It's always optional for us, not compulsory. Okay, but today is a compulsory. You have the legal firms. So what I can share with all of you is that, okay, different time, different approach, but I really enjoy okay, my student days in Kulliyyah of Law, because I learned a lot. Okay, and I really salute to our professors, our young academics, okay, who contributed and developed the graduates. Okay, that's all from me as a start.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zul, for sharing with us. I'm actually quite interested to know, like, you were saying, like, you just went to the library and photostate case laws. How long actually it takes for you to find the particular case law in the first place? Like, how do you know? Do you open one by one?
Because we have the skills. Okay, we have the skills, so we don't have any problems. Why? Because we know, okay, through the All England reports, like I said, the Ramah Belatun to 1952, so we know how to find it. Okay, no need to search in LexisNexis. So I think sometimes I can beat the search in LexisNexis, perhaps.
Thank you so much, Doctor. How about Dr. Sonny? How does your experience translate throughout these years from being a student and now you're a lecturer? You can share with us your perspective, your view. Oh, Dr. Sonny's mic.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Faiz. Thank you, Dr. Zul. You actually, what you did was you helped me looking back to those time. We were, I think, living almost at the same time. I started in 1995 in this PJ campus. I never been to this Lembah Pantai. I was in PJ campus for almost 1 year. Then Then when we moved to Gombak back in 1996, it was, for us, it was the first batch who actually started proper semester in Gombak. So we started in 96 and we completed it in 2000. That is the chronological context. So I did start in 1995, end of 95, and I need to tell you, I'm not going to repeat. I conquer most of all of the flashback and experience mentioned by Dr. Zul, especially regarding our great professors at that time and the way they taught us. But I like to highlight to you about how we came by this new creature, which had been taken for granted by our students today, which is called the internet. When I started in 1995, internet was unknown in the campus. So for your information, of course, I been corresponding with my families and friends back in Jakarta. So I had been calling them by phone, but it was very expensive. So our best communication method was, of course, writing a letter. You can write it short, but if you write short, you actually waste your resources. So you will write a letter up to 5 pages, 10 pages at once, because you want to be efficient. So I wrote those pages of letter at once. Then I sent to my family, my friend, relative, back sent to Jakarta. So they gave me the postman. These people, they gave me option whether I want to use the normal postal service or the registered postal service. And I took the normal one. It's okay, unless if it was very urgent. Then it took me almost 2 weeks actually for the letter to reach the destination. For my letter to reach the destination and to be read by the recipients, be it my family, my relatives, my friends. So you can imagine in 14 days only, and this is the 2 weeks like what we did in the initial MCO. Yeah, it felt very long, isn't it? So
My God.
my letter will only reach the destination in 14 days. Then what happened? That person, let's say if I wrote to my friend Mr. X, then after he received that, he will be writing back to me and sending it back to me, and it will only reach me another 14 days. Yeah. So you get the calculation. So basically it took us 1 month, yeah, to have our full and complete communication. That's why we have this very interesting topic of under law of contract 1, always interesting topic about offer communication by post, isn't it? So
yeah.
it was very relevant at that time.
So long.
Postal rule. We call it postal rule.
Postal rule, yeah.
You still remember that, Faiz, yeah?
Yes.
It was very relevant, yeah. 30 days is to make complete communication. So this was happened to me and to us, so many of us from foreign students. Then one day, things, there's like a light at the end of my tunnel, when someone told me, Sonny, we are now having internet in the campus. It was back in, I think, towards the end of the end of 1995. Then I was asking, what was that? What is the internet? He said, internet, you can do research, you can find resources, and then what else? I was curiously asking, and then he was telling me, you can actually write an electronic letter, electronic mail. Then you can send to the other person wherever he is, and he will get it in a matter of minutes or maybe seconds. Then I say, is it true? Is that true? Hal sodakta? Yes, it was true. Provided, of course, the other person must have the same, facility and resource. So that's how it was amazing for me personally to know how beautiful the internet can be. that really shaped me as a person, shaped my attitude towards how I used the internet. Now I don't have to, at the time I didn't have to go to the post office and write, I didn't have to in the first place write pages of letters and then about a stamp and went to the post office and hoping after 1 month that I will get the reply. You know, things got very different, revolutionary different. So from then on, and it was end of 95, then we started to have the internet, and we started to use the internet for some purposes. And if Dr. Zul still remember, for the whole community in UIA in PJ campus, we only had for the first time two computers with the internet. There were only two stations located inside the library where we can get the internet. So what happened, if you want to use the internet, that is another jihad that you have to do. You have to wake up in the morning, go to the library and write your name in the list, in the register. Then you will know what time you will get the internet. So that is how much we actually started to use the internet. And from time to time we started, then we realized how good the internet it was for our studies. At that time, even in fact during my first degree study period, we didn't use LexisNexis at the time. We didn't have that, but we used the internet for general resources, and we started to write emails and to some people. Now, I mean, things are so revolutionary different, you know. I kept telling my students that this is the beauty of technology. You should never take for granted how easy it was. And this is mentioned already by Dr. Zul. Of course, this is the piece of personal experience I'd like to share with you. Even though you didn't experience the same way I did, but you will realize how grateful we should be with having all these technologies around us. Yeah, so only when you start, and this is not only for me, I mean, even for you guys, you have had some technologies, but in future you will have many more. And you are going to tell the future generation about the same what I'm telling you this, that in future, maybe you don't even need to use your mouse or use the touchpad. All the resources are already available for you. I don't know, the AI is already there, you know. So things are going to change tremendously. But one thing very important, what I'd like to give you as a message, yeah, be grateful. Let us be grateful and make use of these facilities. That's what I'd like to start with. Guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonny. Thank you so much, Dr. Zul. Actually, like, it's kind of eye-opening, both of your experiences are. Actually, I cannot imagine how you actually submit assignments. Like for us today, if we need to do like 20-page case review or article review, we can just type it and then just email it 4:59 or 11:59 at night. But then again, like during your days, I have no idea how you guys submit assignments. Like, do you guys, how do you do that? Like, do you have like those kind of assignments back there? You just send like multiple pages of essays to Dr. Prof Ahmad or to Allahyarham Tasyarul Hashim? Anyone?
The assignment, the assignment can be either in the form of handwriting or in the form, if you have computer, you are rich enough lah. So you are the most valuable bachelor, like if you have a computer and handphone during that time. Okay, no, that's why the originality is there. Okay, they're just joking. Okay.
So you cannot plagiarize lah. Okay, I see that. That's really helpful. How about Dr. Sonny? Do you do the same?
Yeah, it is the same. I remember I was assigned to write essay under in Islamic legal system topic. It was a first year subject, and interestingly, the lecturer at that time is now our current deputy dean, which is Dr. Tajul. Yeah, he was my lecturer at that time. He was telling us to write an essay, so I chose my topic as the development of Islamic law in Indonesia, and I didn't use the internet for that. I went to library, I went to all this bulk of law journals, tried to find any articles relating to Indonesian law, and I put all the journals on the table and write one by one, pick all these resources, and alhamdulillah, I got quite a pretty good essay, which I was very satisfied at that time. And yeah, talking about typing and printing services, there are quite a few places in the hostels that people offered those services. Yeah, some people offered typing services. They actually charge us few dollars or few ringgit at the time. Yeah, but now another interesting experience, and about submitting, of course, we have to submit it by hand. And another experience was the assignment under the Islamic law of transaction, or what you call it, transaction in Islamic law. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was a Sharia, and I took it in Arabic language, in Arabic, and my lecturer was Dr. Suhaimi at that time. So we never know about typing in Arabic letters. So what I did was I was using my handwriting, Arabic calligraphy, and write those assignments like 20 over pages and sent it by hand. So it was how manual we were, how manual we were.
Exactly.
So,
thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Zul, Dr. Sonny. Those were really insightful.
Do you know how that we presented our assignment? Okay. Normally we don't have PowerPoint slide,
So you guys use the whiteboard
we
lah,
use
kan?
kertas mahjong.
Oh ya Allah, kertas mahjong. Subhanallah.
We use the
Sekolah
kertas
rendah.
mahjong, kertas mahjong.
Sekolah rendah, sekolah menengah balik.
Okay, during our
Flashback.
times lah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonny, Dr. Zul. That was
continue.
those were really insightful, and I believe that it gave our viewers much more perspective in regards to the difference between the past and the present. And I believe that those are the ways on how we can evaluate how the teaching method should evolve, how fast should we adapt ourselves with the current change of time. So now let's move to our main issue today. That's a main question of the day, right? So perhaps if we want to talk about future of legal studies, we need to talk about who's the main player of today, the internet. It's as easy as that. And of course, I understand as well that back then the question, like if you need answers to question of laws, they are regarded as an exclusive exchange that is obtainable only from lawyers or legal practitioners. You cannot search online. You cannot, it's really hard for you to do so. And nowadays, the internet already changed this dynamic. Well, not just this particular dynamic, but also every aspect of society. So everything is online, right? E-commerce, we see online shopping has become more popular in recent years, as well as there's even in the academic world, online courses that are being offered by Ivy League universities. So in the context of our legal industry, information on the law, statutes, legal opinions, cases, those became significantly more organized and more accessible by the public, either through website or social media. So the public reliance towards like traditional consultation is reduced only to matters that require critical thinking, application of the law, or having a person to represent you in court. And even with such changes, even though other parts of society has moved in line with the changes that is currently being a dominant trend in society, it doesn't happen as much in the legal community. In fact, like a Forbes article stated that online courses have long been resisted by law schools, which kind of indicate that we kind of still prefer the traditional, face-to-face classroom model, same assessment method for the past 30 years. So my questions to both of you, let's just discuss about it. How should the current teaching method, adapt to this new dynamic created by the internet, where information is easily accessible by everyone. And as well, here's another part that is really interesting. Should we ditch memorizing case laws as a part of our assessment and shift our entire assessment towards teaching how to apply the law to serve the demands of the market for more critical thinking law graduates? So maybe for this, anyone?
Okay, let me start. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the questions. Okay. I had through my experience. Okay. Alhamdulillah. So far, okay, I have experience as advocate and solicitor for several years, and then I did my PhD in the UK. So I also did my research on the legal. Okay, and then I know the legal fraternities, the practices in the UK. And then I worked in Dubai for 1 year, also doing research on legal framework of the Gulf countries, Cooperation Council countries, legal frameworks. And then I did my sabbatical as a visiting researcher in New York. So I'm very active with Muslim Bar Association of New York, with Islamic Law Committee of New York Bar. So this, among others, exposed me with international practices on legal professions, also as a legal educations. Okay, I can, from my experience, direct experience, I can see the developments as well as how the law schools responds to the change in the market. Okay, so talking about your question about internet, about technology. Okay, when you talk about the future of legal studies, normally when you talk about futures, okay, you must also respect the disciplines, how that you try to predict the futures. Okay, so as a member of the World Future Studies Federation, so I'm a member of World Future Studies Federation. So in the world, there are 3 mazhab on futurists. Okay, the first is European mazhab, World Future Studies Federations, and then Americans Futures Societies, near mazhab in Toffler, Drucker, and John Nesbitt. And another is Asian Pacific Network, Prof. Sohail, and so on. Okay, so until now, okay, we discussed a lot about the future, including the future of legal studies. And I wrote one paper on the future of the legal and Sharia education. Okay, I presented in Brussels during Muktamar Futurist Europa. Okay, this we call the Futurist Network of the Europe. Okay. Okay. So in order for us to analyze your questions, we need to know the insights to reflect the past, and then to know and to interpret the current situations, and then to the ability to predict the futures. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to analyze the use features, the past. Okay, so as you mentioned that, okay, the law schools, not only the law school, the legal professions, okay, also we call it slow, okay, in terms of change. Okay, if we read Revolutionary Wealth by Alvin Toffler in chapter 5 about the clash of speeds of change, okay, Alvin Toffler mentioned clearly that, okay, law is one of the slowest, okay, institutions, okay, to change as compared to the civil societies, as compared to the corporations or to the companies. Okay, so number one is because I verify with your arguments that yes, slow. Okay, number two, okay, the use features of outdated programs in the law school. Okay, outdated. Number 3, about the quality of knowledge. Okay. Number 4 is about technology, the legal tax. They call it legal tax. Okay. And number 5 regarding with the law itself. Okay. That's in Malaysia about the Legal Profession Acts. Okay. These are among others. Okay. The challenges or the past future, the use features that we need to analyze. And then after we know the use features, and then we need to look at and to scan, okay, the current situation. We call it the scan the futures. Okay, so to be fair to you, if you let's say if you read the law journals, even whatever the resources, the materials that we read, is that, okay, there are a lot of developments, okay, and changes happening, okay, in the market, okay, not only on the legal education side, but also on the legal professions. So meaning that the legal profession and the legal educations, okay, must have a link, must have a good sync or synchronize between the legal educations and the legal professions. Okay, I give you an example. Okay, the developments on the legal educations. Okay, if from in the United States, okay, a lot of conferences and summit on the future of legal educations. Okay, they sit down 3 days conference to talk about the legal education, and they talk about the teaching methodology, they talk about the content, they talk about the features of practice and so on. Okay, and also to the legal professions. Okay, you look at the legal firms right now. The legal firms also embrace the technology. Okay, they have missions. For example, okay, there are software. Okay, several consultants. Okay, for example, LawWix, Ross Intelligence. Okay, so many. Okay, produce, okay, artificial intelligence that can provide services, legal services, accurate than the lawyers, okay, to some extent, okay, more towards conveyancing or contracts or agreement, a smart contract and so on, okay, but not on litigation. Litigation will still need a human being, okay, will still need a human being. Okay, so what I want to, what I want to conclude, okay, to respond to your question is that when we talk about the youth futures, okay, and then the current scenario, the current situations, what type of law schools that we want to have, okay? So I give you 3 type of visions on futures of law schools. Okay, number 1, either we want to produce a practice-ready law schools, okay, or legal educations, or we want to produce a tomorrow lawyers, okay, law schools, or we want to produce or want to create a knowledge communities law school, legal educations. Okay, let's say that if you want to choose, okay, we want to, we decide that we want to produce a practice ready. So our law schools will be, okay, looking at the practice, and then we try to fill in the gaps, okay, to bridge the gaps, and then to increase the professionalism, calling all the lawyers, the practitioners to come to the university, okay? But it will not create a significant change, okay, to the legal fraternities. Number 2, if you want to create a tomorrow lawyers, so meaning that you create a new subject, new courses, you talk about digitization, you talk about outsourcing, okay? So then you want to produce lawyers that can accommodate the futures, accommodate the technology. So this one also will determine the types and the forms of the law schools that you want to have, okay? And number 3, okay, this is my personal, okay, visions about law school and legal education. That's the law school, the legal education. We want to create a knowledge communities, okay, meaning that number 1, okay, we want to produce not only legal personnel but also legal and non-legal, okay. Number 2, interdisciplinary, okay, law and accounting, law and finance, law and TVET, law and engineering, law and medicines, okay, interdisciplinary, okay. And then we will have some sort of new forms or new design of curriculums, okay. So my response to your question is that the internet, okay, the technology, okay, yeah, the response still, okay, depends, okay, on the forms, on the planning that you want to create through the legal education. And my personal observation is that, okay, if you want to make sure that the legal education is relevant and sustainable, and also meet the elements of humanisms, okay, so we must think about create a legal educations that sync the technology, the internet, but in order for us to produce a knowledge community, okay, that respect the interdisciplinary and also combine to produce a legal and non-legal okay, personnel, okay, for the market, not only for the markets, but for the society and for the community. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Zul. I do see how wow, your experience are really helpful in actually helping me to understand about the many kinds of future that we can have with law school. And in fact, like if I may summarize about the three different types of law schools that we can we should decide on before we actually venture into, is first of all, like practice ready, we focus on today. Tomorrow lawyers, we focus on tomorrow. While knowledge community, we let the society to decide which one is more important based on the knowledge, based on the culture of knowledge that is created from
Exactly.
the law school
So
itself.
the legal education just not only for the profession, okay, also to serve the society, the community.
Thank you so much, Doctor. How about Dr. Sonny? Do you want to add anything on that, or Dr. Zul's statement? Hello. Okay. Unmute.
Dr. Sonny.
Yeah, sorry,
Can you say Dr.
it's
Sonny?
been mute. Yeah, it's been muted.
Okay.
So this is the trap of technology, and I've been telling students that when you use technology, you have two possibilities. Number one, you may look cool with the technology, but the second one, you may look fool with the technology if you don't really use it well. So,
straight to the heart. Okay.
Yeah, so that was what had just happened when I was talking, but it was muted. Yeah. Okay. Now it was very interesting inside Dr. Zul sharing with us. Now let me just add on with few of my perspectives, talking about law and technology, and this is an area which is quite close to my heart in my teaching, my research. The difference is that I have never been in legal practice, legal profession proper. I've been in the past 20 years been involved in research, teaching research, as well as consultancy works. So nothing involved, never involved in this profession. So I'd like to be fair to be sharing with you from this perspective, talking about technology and whether it finally would be embraced by lawyers, by legal studies. And I think the answer is inevitable. It is a big yes. It is positive. Yeah. But whether it was too slow or not too slow, maybe it is a little bit too slow compared to others, because we in law or legal fraternity, basically we have been dealing with humans, and our main concern has been the human itself. Therefore, when the technology comes, technology always comes, as a supplement. Maybe that is why legal studies has been slow in embracing the technologies. But I think now it is very inevitable. Back in 1996, this social activist from the United States by the name of John Perry Barlow had shocked the world, the academia, as well as the social activists, with what he called as a declaration of independence of cyberspace. So he and his friends declared that cyberspace, back then it was 1996, must be free and must be independent from the hands of government. And when he said that, he was basically telling to the governments, you governments have to get away from this regulating the cyberspace, because it is not for you. Basically, it is not a natural habitat for governments. The background of this declaration of independence of cyberspace was because back then in 1996, the United States came up with this bill on Communications Decency Act, where they wanted to regulate some offensive contents on the internet. So came up these people, the social activists, the technology activists, declaring the independence of cyberspace, basically opposing the idea of the government to regulate the internet. And of course, most of the parts of the declaration is rhetoric. It is not really like somebody who is declaring, like declaring the independence of Indonesia. So it was very real victory for people. But of course, this is rhetoric actually. But this has been a very great piece of work that inspires lots of internet studies and research, including legal research about relationship, the intersection between the internet or technology in general and law. So John Perry Barlow was saying that this is not the natural habitat for you, government, because this is totally a different environment. We are here, we have no boundaries. You government, you are mandated by people, but you are not mandated by our people in cyberspace. So he was actually saying cyberspace is totally a different realm, different place with different citizenries and different values. He was also saying that any attempt to regulate the internet is going to be futile or useless, because there is no way to enforce your law in our space, and there is no such a there's no mandate from our people for you to regulate us. And also, when you deal with the internet, you're actually dealing with something intangible. So these are among the thoughts that Perry Barlow was putting in his declaration of independence of cyberspace. Actually, challenge the legal scholars to actually to answer and to rebut, answer, and discuss what he was saying about the internet, which he thinks should be lawless, should not be regulated by law. So it was back in 1996, and now we are in 2020, and most of those things are actually being answered. Those things that were not regulated and that could not be regulated at the time are starting to be answered today. You are talking about the non-applicability of international law, but now we have some treaties dealing with things that are going on in the internet. You are talking about the non-binding, non-enforceability of certain legal concepts. For example, the concept of property. Now we already have laws that saying that you should not use some personal information that belongs to people or that have some potential to breach national security. So we are talking about intangibles now. So what I'm trying to say is that the way we saw technology at that time in 1996 was very much different with the way we are seeing it now. And that is how the law has actually started to answer all those challenges. And now when you talk about law of contract, for example, you have to also include the fact that most of the contracts that we are doing today are basically electronic based. You don't actually see the two people meeting of people having face-to-face transactions. You don't actually see papers being written or being signed by handwriting signature that we understand the way it was before. So teaching about contract will never be complete unless you also include the fact of the electronic commerce, how electronic commerce is today, how the contract actually is taking place, how the offer and acceptance is taking place, how is the delivery process, how is the consumer protection in an e-commerce situation, how is the dispute resolution, and you are now talking about having a dispute with people beyond the boundary of your country. So all this will have to be embedded into these teachings, and this is only law of contract. And we have not even started with this smart contract, new things of concept. Yeah, in UIA now we have the first. We're going to have a first PhD student writing about a smart contract, and Yes, and I actually threw this idea to this person, and he was kind of interested to do it. So now, inshallah, we'll have one writing on that. So this is basically how things develop, you know, and it is inevitable. When you talk about law of torts, you have to talk about negligence of people providing internet services, for example, of negligence of people who fail to protect the data of bank customers. Remember that now we already have so many incidents of data breaches, personal data stealing, and so on. So how the law of thoughts will play to that? There is a big little, I mean, problem on how you prove the harm, for example. And
So
then when you talk about negligence and so on, you know, things are okay. You can go on.
But I think like what Dr. Sonny's what Dr. Sonny added is really interesting on top of what Dr. Zul said. And Dr. Zul focus more on the physical aspect, on the actuality how we teach. Dr. Sonny focus more on the content. What do we teach to people? Because like for example, like Dr. Zul said, like his vision is to have a knowledge-based community, right? Dr. Sonny is adding for our viewers information. Dr. Sonny was adding the perspective on what should be taught on top of such teaching method. Yeah, we want to teach you through, for example, but through online platform like currently right now we're using Zoom. But what do we teach you is also important on how law, on how what we teach need to also evolve with time, with current technology, with the recent development of every aspect of our community. Wait, yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Sonny, Dr. Zul. I believe that it's really the answers given have provide a really wide general answer to the question that I posed. And on that, yeah, we have a question from a viewer here. It's a question to Dr. Zul. With the advancement of technologies such as big data and AI, the legal resources is much easier to be searched by the normal person with no legal background. Hence, it seems like the legal advising part can simply be replaced by the computer. I think I do see eye to eye with this viewer, because we don't know how AI is in 5-10 years time. Hence, it seems like but the lawyers can still be relevant in the future if they have a strong communication skill to represent the client or convince the court. What's Dr. Zol's opinion on the importance of communication skills, especially for law students? Maybe a question to Dr. Zol, if Dr. Zol wants to address.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, for the questions, I talk about big data, okay, data analytics, and then okay, I presented a paper, okay, in Qatar. Okay, the future of this is only Islamic finance, the future of governance in Islamic finance, the future of Sharia governance in Islamic finance. Okay, and I presented the paper in front of all the ulama lah. This is ijtima or muktamar ulama sedunia of all Islamic finance in Qatar. So my paper has been published by the Edinburgh Institute Press. Okay, I just shared with all the shuyukh, the Sheikh Kabir. Okay, that the ulama also might be replaced by the artificial intelligence. Okay, okay, we might have a virtual or robot advisor for Sharia robot advisor or Sharia mufti. Okay, and one ulama, okay, one alim, okay, try to challenge, okay, my my statement, and suddenly one guy from Dubai, okay, from HSBC Dubai, say that we are doing it right now, just to support, okay, my contentions. Okay, so meaning that, okay, it's true. Okay, and even if you read the law journals, even if you read many reading materials, okay, the updates on the legal professions, you can see that particularly in the Singapore, in the US, in Canada, okay, in the developed nations, okay, they are really investing, okay, on the legal tech. They call it legal tech, okay, legal tech. And even they provide a very conducive environment for legal startup. Okay, for the legal startups. Why? Because they knew that in the future, this artificial intelligence is called disruptive technology, surely will affect their professions. Okay, so we must admit that. Okay, so in this regard, the questions, when certain legal matters can be resolved, can be reconciled through artificial intelligence, and how to respond to this change and to this development. Okay, so when you talk about the disappearance of jobs, the disappearance of legal jobs, legal services, you must also think that from that crisis there will create opportunity. So for me, even though the artificial intelligence or the big data, the data analytics can helps or can provide or can replace the human being, the lawyers, but at the same time there are other matters that only the human being can address it better than the artificial intelligence. So meaning that we understand, we admit, and we embrace that there will be some sort of potential disappearance or lack of, why can I say that, provide less legal services, but at the same time there are other opportunities that we can explore. I give an example. I give an example. When we want to develop apps on certain concept or certain theory on probates and so on, the technicians or the who else, the computer analysts or the IT engineers, who can do that, but still the contents come from the legal personnel, come from the lawyers, come from the individual that knows the law. So meaning that we still have the opportunity to explore other areas that we can lead, that the human being still relevant. Another thing is about litigations. When you talk about litigations, still for litigations, still human beings are better than the artificial intelligence. In the future, I don't know. But what I want to conclude here is that when we talk about the future, we talk about the big data. You cannot solve the problem from the same consciousness that created it. You cannot solve the problem that from the same consciousness that created it. We must learn to see from another dimensions. So from another dimension that might help us to beat the artificial intelligence, to beat the robot and so on. So my last answer is that to this question is that talking about artificial intelligence and big data that might replace a certain jobs or certain services of the lawyers, but it will not annihilate, or it will not stop the lawyers to explore more innovatively, creatively, other legal services. And in fact, I just want to end my answer just to quote Scott Harvey, in his books. He said that the future, he said that the liberal arts will rule the futures, will rule the world, not the artificial intelligence, not the technology. And then the liberal arts, we talk of the liberal arts, the human beings, the lawyers, the mankind, will rule the world. IT, big data, just a tool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Zul. Yeah, I do see that how a communication skill should be someone that's really, should be a skill that should be really should be practiced and should be within every law graduates. Now, we actually have a question to Dr. Sonny, but then again, I think we have a call from Brother Mustaqim from Dominic Tan and Co. Brother Mustaqim, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay. All right, Brother Mustaqim, you have a question, if I'm not mistaken.
All right.
Can you address on it?
Yeah, can. Okay. Sebelum tu mungkin saya ingin kenalkan diri saya dulu lah. Nama saya Mustaqim, graduan AIKOL lah, IIUM student dulu. Saya pernah belajar dengan Dr. Sonny dulu, kelas start.
Yeah, I still remember you.
Okay, jadi insyaAllah baru-baru ni saudara Farhan ada tanya saya lah berkenaan dengan pertama apa yang berlaku sekarang ni dekat bidang profession peguaman dekat Malaysia. Jadi mungkin sedikit perkongsian apa yang berlaku sekarang ni. Jadi sementara dalam MCO, apa yang terjadi ialah kita boleh nampak bila pasal profession undang-undang ni dia tak ada dengan sendirinya sahaja. Dia bergantung juga dengan perkara-perkara lain. Contoh macam conveyancing contohnya. Kalau LHDN tutup, pejabat tanah tutup dan sebagainya, kerja-kerja conveyancing tak boleh berjalan. Jadi nak tak nak dia punya firm tu kalau buka pun lepas ni memang dia tak boleh nak buat kerja. Jadi itu situasi yang terjadi lah dekat Malaysia sekarang ni lah. Berkenaan dengan pergerakan firma-firma guaman. Dan kalau kita tengok statistik, dah 18,000 atau 19,000 peguam-peguam yang dekat Malaysia ni, dan kebanyakan firma-firma yang ada merupakan sole proprietor. Jadi nak katanya firma-firma guaman ni firma yang kecil-kecil lah. Jadi bila kita dalam keadaan sekarang, kebanyakan firma-firma guaman yang kecil-kecil ni banyaklah terganggu dia punya bisnes dia. Sebab kita tak boleh lari daripada fakta yang undang-undang ni juga adalah bisnes. Sebab kita ada cost kita sendiri. Kalau ada overhead sebagainya, benda-benda tu yang kita kena cater dekat dalam firma guaman. Jadi sedikit sebanyak bila contoh macam ni lah pejabat tanah sebagainya tutup, dia punya bisnes juga terganggu. Itu yang pertama lah. Kalau macam corporate contohnya, macam corporate ada kawan saya memang dia punya firm untuk corporate memang tak bergerak langsung. Jadi itu antara cabang-cabang undang-undang yang profession terganggu sikit lah. Cuma satu, mungkin ni pendapat peribadi, bila kita kata essential service, bagi saya secara peribadi saya rasa undang peguam terutamanya perlu dimasukkan dekat dalam essential service. Contoh sebab apa saya cakap macam tu, bila kita tengok dekat balai polis contohnya, reman dijalankan macam biasa. Jadi kalau tak ada peguam yang standby atau prepare untuk hadapi perkara-perkara macam ni, jadi benda tu kita tak nak adanya berlaku abuse of power daripada pihak penguasa. Jadi bila kita cakap cerita macam tu, nak tak nak kita kena masukkan profession peguam sebagai salah satu essential service supaya kita boleh uphold justice lah, tak adanya abuse of power daripada penguasa. Dan mungkin itu yang pertama lah yang saudara Farhan suruh saya mungkin sentuh sikit pada malam ni. Dan kemudian yang kedua, ni adalah nasihat kepada bakal-bakal graduan undang-undang untuk masuk ke dalam bidang ni lah, profession peguam. Yang pertama saya rasa mungkin persediaan daripada segi fizikal dan mental untuk contoh masuk yang paling mudah dalam chambering lah. Jadi dalam tempoh 9 bulan chambering tu dia punya teori dan aplikasi sangat-sangat, memang kita faham teori law sebagainya. Tapi bila sampai kepada aplikasi, kita terpaksa deal dengan bos, kita terpaksa deal dengan klien. Jadi kita terpaksa deal dengan situasi sebenar. Jadi benda-benda ni yang kita tak belajar dalam kelas. Jadi saya secara peribadi, saya rasa peguam-peguam, terutamanya alumni lah, patut turun kembali ke universiti masing-masing supaya diorang dapat bagi persediaan kepada adik-adik ni, supaya nanti tak adalah culture shock. Sebab kita faham suasana belajar dengan suasana kerja sangat berbeza. Dia punya tension dia punya pressure dan sebagainya. Benda ni yang kita tak dapat nak nafikan lah. Jadi kalau kita dapat sediakan kita punya student dengan demand daripada industri dan kolaborasi antara universiti dan industri yang sangat baik, bagi saya benda ni boleh cater lah. Jadi saya rasa mungkin itu saja. Mungkin sedikitlah perkongsian sebab saya pun segan dua orang hebat speaker kita malam ni.
Thank you Mustaqim. Okay, very good insight.
Terima kasih sangat.
Terima kasih Mustaqim.
Terima kasih Bro Mustaqim. Pada sama juga, selain daripada seorang lawyer dekat Dominic kita AIKOL, beliau juga seorang alumni UIA, at the same time juga dalam grup Peguam ABIM. Terima kasih sangat Bro Mustaqim kerana memberi insight.
Terima kasih juga sebab menjemput. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Jadi kita dapat, okay, sorry, I have to change my language back. We do got some I believe like for tonight's discussion we have what Dr. Zulz gave us, the 3 types of law school that we want to create, what Dr. Sonny gave us, what kind of content that we want to teach law school, and now at the same time we've just received an input in regards to the reality of today's legal practice, in which I believe that this recent pandemic has displayed on how important it is for not just our legal studies but also the legal industry itself to really adapt to technology, to really adapt to the recent developments in order for us to move forward and cater to society in a better cater to society. So thank you so much Dr. Sonny and Dr. Zul. Nevertheless, I think like to Dr. Sonny, let's go back to the question that has been asked. Apparently, it's from Brother Ahmad Muhammad Dahlan. He's a lecturer from Quiz. He's asking, can panels elaborate further how to apply specific technology and vocational or TVET in legal curriculum or syllabus in university? Maybe this question I provide to Dr. Sonny since you're a lecturer. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Okay, how much time I do have? Right. Let me know.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Oh. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, let me just, since I prepared something. So, do you see it now on your screen?
Yeah. We see.
Maybe now I just want to highlight this slide. Okay, it is part of what I wanted to highlight previously. So there was this question that also intersect with this slide. This is basically the whole thing of what we are talking today for the future of legal studies. But before that, I really appreciate what has been shared by Brother Mustaqim. Few things I can help highlight also part of what he faced and the challenges that he faced. I would also like to highlight part of them here. So you are talking about, I mean, the question is asking about developing the curriculum, reforming the curriculum. But let us have some overview of the bigger picture first, because changing curriculum is actually technical. Changing curriculum, reforming curriculum is something more technical, and there is one of the part section here on this slide you will see. But first thing first, of course, we want to ask ourselves, we want to ask a very big question: what do we want to achieve in the legal studies? Do we want to achieve lawyers who memorize cases? Do we want to achieve lawyers who simply can argue or debate? Of course, not any one of them, but actually a combination of them. So two things we are looking forward is what do you want to achieve them in terms of ethical and in terms of professional perspective. When you talk about ethical, I think we have to remind again, and legal studies is part of the bigger education agenda. And in this country, you don't see anywhere else but for your falsafah, pendidikan negara in Malaysia, that we have been upholding this from since a long time. So we will have the answers of what we want to have, what we want to be for our next law graduates. And we can go back to this falsafah pendidikan negara. And if anyone needs a reminder about this, I have this falsafah written on this slide, and it is in Bahasa. You can have the whole thing, which I am not going to read. So for any type or any part of education, any disciplines, of course, we are going to go back to this. And it is a very beautifully worded, beautifully designed phrase that reflects what we want to have, what we want to achieve in our education. It is a very comprehensive excellence. So it is a very comprehensive excellence involving all. And this will apply to anyone learning law, anyone learning something else, economics, business, engineering, human sciences, religious studies, and so on. We will go back to this. So we will find answers at nowhere but this falsafah. So we have to go back to this again. And this will never change, no matter what technologies we are in, no matter what, because this is a very fundamental thing. It doesn't change just because the technology changes. You still need a comprehensive excellence and an ethical person who believes in God, who believes in moral values, regardless of how modern you are in terms of technology adoption. So that is about the ethical values. Now we want to talk about professional. And this is where you will see shifting, the shift. We talk about law graduates. So the question will be, if you remember from my class, Faiz, you were in my class of thought, were you?
No, I was with Dr. Suzy.
Oh, you were in my contract, were you? Because I remember seeing you in a class. I don't know. Maybe.
I think there was a time I salah masuk kelas. So
right. So that's the only one that I saw you in the class. Yeah, that is a mistake that brings to experience of our meeting. It's fine. So I don't know how it happened. Maybe you mistake the schedule. So we are talking about what you want to achieve in terms of professionalism. You are talking about you want to have a lawyer or law graduates, legal professionals who are able to respond correctly to the surroundings, to the environment. Yeah. So the environment changes, the circumstances change. So we need to have a person who is so agile, who is so ready to look at circumstances. So we are looking at a new set of professional standard. If you remember the thoughts class, we have mentioned about the reasonableness, reasonable standard of a duty of care of professionals. This will never change just because technology changes. We want to have a legal professional who is able to serve the society, use their knowledge for the benefit of the society, and so on. So in the digital age, then this lawyer will have to adapt himself with these digital challenges. This is why it is relevant to remember back what John Perry Barlow was saying in 1996. Yes, our lawyers today, our legal academia today should be able to answer what John Perry Barlow was worried back in 1996. That is how the profession should change. Then there is a next question. After we know what we want to achieve, then it is time for us to look around and see your right, your left, what is the reality of the social construct that we live, that our students will live. It is very disruptive, as Dr. Zul was mentioning. It is very disruptive. Sometimes it is unpredictable. So we have this, what they call as VUCA, V-U-C-A, VUCA. This is a new term, a new acronym, which stands for which stands for what? V for volatility, meaning we will see the time where it is so volatile, things changes so rapidly, uncertain. Sometimes we just could not realize how disruptive it can be. That is you. And then C for sorry, why I would forget that.
That's okay.
Let's skip C, but A is I have to look at this.
It's okay, Dato'.
Yeah, this is basically a new term to highlight how disruptive it is. We can go back to the VUCA later on, but the underlining part is actually it's disruptive. You never know what will happen. You see, only recently now we saw the first time our court in Sabah was using artificial intelligence.
Yeah, in sentencing, right?
Yes, to use it for sentencing. Maybe few more we will see soon. It may be used for other purpose. Maybe used for example, in other countries it has been used for deciding whether someone should get parole or not, whether someone should be, perhaps in future, should be sentenced at all or not. We never know. So things can be very disruptive. Of course, always comes with the controversies, the pros and cons, and we are open to that, you know. And we must go back to this falsafah pendidikan negara again to talk about whether it should go that far or not. But remember, technology is in our hand. We will decide to what extent we should go. That is actually our call, a call for us to answer. So we have all these disruptive things, so we want our law graduates to be able to look at that situation. And this is this COVID-19 is just another situation where it is so disruptive, isn't it? We never imagined before that we have missed 3 times Jummah prayer consecutively. Have you ever imagined doing that? And then having Ramadan without going to mosque for Taraweeh. That is only in terms of worship. Not talking about learning. We will see how disruptive it is, because we never know how things will happen. But of course, we will hope for the best. So we look at all these challenges, you know, new problems, or maybe old problems in new forms, and therefore it will trigger us to ask whether we need a new law. So you see, this question was asking how we reform and amend the syllabus. This is when we will start to know if we do really need to reform the law. Then we have to reflect it in our syllabus and our curriculum. Yeah. So, for example, talking about stealing, the offense of theft. We have been talking only about theft of property. What about theft of something having no property characteristics, something intangible? Can we call it theft? Someone who stole your data, can we call it data stealing as a theft, as the theft that we understand before? And should we apply the same law, or should we have a new law for it, for data theft? So these things will trigger us talking about, when I said about AI being used for helping in the sentencing, not for sentencing, but helping in the sentencing, then of course that is for the judiciary part. What about for the lawyers part? Then we lawyers, then you have to then be prepared to use just the same tool to perhaps argue and to rebut the whatever being mentioned or argued in the court. So this will actually come naturally. And if you do not have that agility to be able to adapt to changes and disruptiveness, then of course we will be left behind.
Yes.
Our curriculum has been so prepared to actually help students, not only to memorize cases, but also to be critical, to be comparative, to be, looking at all these possibilities. When we teach you using this IRAC, for example, remember the IRAC method?
Yeah.
The memorization is only few parts of the R part. The R in IRAC, when you recall the rules, is either you memorize or you just need to, you don't actually memorize everything. You know, in fact, memorizing is part of the life. You cannot do away with it. With it, you know, no matter how good the technology is, you will still to memorize things. But of course, now we outsource more and more memories to technologies. That is another thing. So we do have that. We are not only preparing students to deal with written facts as well as cases, but also to analyze it. So this part of analytical sets is what we want to intensify in the future, I believe. We want to intensify with that, because if you keep on focusing on retrieving the data, now the technologies can do that much better than you, much better than us. And there will be time in future that the courts will be a very modernized court, that everything was there, AI is there, search engine was there to help everyone who actually needs information. But now it won't be complete unless you actually beautifully assess it, argue with it, and analyze it. Sometimes you have to compare it, and this is the skills that we want to have. This comes to the last part of this column, the new sets of skills that we want. It will be less retrieval skill, but more analytical. And therefore, with that having in mind, being more clearer, then we look towards reforming our law courses and reforming curriculum, syllabus, as well as the methodologies. How we do that, it's very technical. You know, about the content, then we have to reflect whatever issues coming up. In contract, you talk about smart contracts, you talk about, you know, online contracts, you talk about consumer protection in contract. In thoughts, you talk about the liability of data breach, for example. In public international law, now NATO has come up with this new guideline on how you apply the principles of international law of war to a cyber war. Have we included that? Have we considered that? Because war in the future will not be a war on battlegrounds with missiles and things, but it will be more electronic, cyber-based, you know, and so on. So do we have enough law to deal with that? So we have this few development where the current law of international, you know, law of war and so on, and humanitarian law now being implemented in the realm of cyber war. So these are things that need to be reflected and retrieved in our syllabus. Of course, I'm not going to talk about banking. It's like it is Dr. Zul's area where so much has been, you know, so much has been included from the technology perspective. So this will come naturally if we have, you know, the bigger picture. And talking about methodology, we have plenty of choices now. And because of this COVID-19, we have started this a lot of online methods, learning methods, one way or another, synchronous and non-synchronous, text-based, video-based, sound-based, and these are all, you know, technical, I would say.
Okay, I think I want to build up on that last statement by Dr. Sonny, but I can Dr. Sonny want to conclude?
Right. I'm done.
Oh, you're done. I'm sorry. Okay. I think I really like this visual here. We have 3 questions to be asked. But if I have to summarize, if I have to say, okay, I already received a notification. We only have 10 minutes left. But then again, like probably if I am going to put today's discussion in a form that we can visualize, it's kind of like, you know, you want to teach someone how to drive, right? Dr. Zulkifli is stressing on, okay, how do we want to teach them? Should we, what kind of driver we want to have? That's the first thing you have to do. And Dr. Sonny is highlighting on how do we teach that person, or basically like what gear or what kind of traffic law that we want to teach him. Now let's talk about what kind of car he should use, which is what kind of technology or what kind of platform that we should utilize for future legal studies. Since we have only 10 minutes, maybe this is a really short one. I see that augmented reality and virtual reality has gained quite a lot of traction in the academic industry. In fact, I believe that in students in engineering or architecture, they have started to have virtual reality to help their understanding on concepts or principles. So how about law? How do we actually incorporate it? If both of you can give a short answer, how do we incorporate it? Because what I have in mind is, imagine if we can have like a VR, and then like we can virtualize the court setting. In actuality, you can have the judge in front, you have the media all taking not taking picture, media cannot take pictures, sorry. You have people, they have a huge crowd, and now you're doing your own mooting, like that kind of example. So how do you view this? Probably each can talk for like 2 minutes. How do we utilize such technologies to incorporate into legal studies in the future?
Okay, all right.
Anyone?
Let me first respond your questions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My experience. About the technology. The first, we need to differentiate between the teaching methodology and tools and techniques, because two different things. Okay, when we talk about tools and techniques, we talk about ICT, about flipped class, and so on. Okay, when you talk about methods, you talk about the approach. The methodology that you used. Okay, in teaching. Okay, legal educations. Okay, for example, my experience in Foreign Law School. Okay, I still remember the professional practice. Okay, the class really just like in the court. Okay, they invited a top judge in New York, and also they invited the top senior lawyers in New York in the class, and both judge and lawyers, senior lawyers, quarreling each other in the class. So the students interfering, and then try really appreciate the discourse in the class. This is in New York. When I was in Harvard, the same thing. Meaning that the methodology, even though they use all the ICT facilities and so on, but still the discourse, the discussion, still using the method. So when you talk of the teaching methods, for example, there are classification of teaching method in law, conventional method, theory research, and we call it a collaborative methods, a clinical method, legal education, field action methods, case methods. So this is all the teaching method. I think we can retain, we can maintain, and we can continue with this methodology. But in order to make it all of these methodologies more interesting and more in line with the soul of the new generations, then you can incorporate the tools and the techniques. Use ICT, use the flipped class, use the WebEx, use Google Hangouts, use the Microsoft, and so on. So meaning that you don't have to introduce a new methodology, but you synchronize, that you integrate, you synthesize between these two, and this will make the objective and the higher objective of the teaching or the legal educations can be met. So what is more important, not only the tools are only the wasilah, the wasail. The maqasid is different. The maqasid will not be meaning that the higher objective of education. That's why when I talk about the future of the educations, I always talk about the maqasid. I always talk about the higher objective, meaning that the ends or the objective of the law school, whether we want to produce only the practice-ready lawyers, or just we want to produce a future lawyers that can accommodate the futures. But for me, the end objective, the end of the tunnel, the end objective of the legal education is that to produce a human being, a legal personnel that can serve the communities. So meaning that, the future of legal education, looking at the tools, looking at the methods, is not only to produce lawyers, to produce a legal personnel, to produce a legal person, but what is more important is that the legal education can contribute towards developing okay, the human being, okay, by appreciating the interdisciplinary, by developing, okay, the thinking skills, okay, and so on and so forth. So I conclude my answer to response to Faiz questions that, okay, whatever methods that we use, okay, it is always acceptable. The tools will only put added flavor, okay, to it, okay. But what is more important, we guarantee, we ensure that the teaching methodology will accommodate, will meet the higher or the end objective of the legal education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zul. Dr. Sonny, do you want to add on that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more from what Dr. Zul was saying. Let me just add a little bit. Technologies develop, yeah. What we didn't have in the past, now we have. What was expensive in the past, now getting cheaper. So if you are talking about some technologies which are still costly, that is one of the biggest hurdle. We just be being realistic. Even when you talk about connectivity, it already becomes a problem. That is why we didn't go for synchronous online teaching, because we still consider the different level of internet penetration from our students, unless you're talking about all students who are living at the same place and hostel and so on. So first thing first, let us see realistically how able are we to do that, you know, in terms of technology preparedness. So technology preparedness requires another important element, which is funding. If you want to have all those technologies, which we should not have a problem with. Just because we are teaching law doesn't mean we are anti-technologies, isn't it? Because we have been using all these technologies for shopping, we have been using all the technologies for research. Why can't we use those technologies for other things like teaching? But we have different levels of complexities of the technologies that we are using. First, we have been using this slide projector. We have been using, you know,
PowerPoint.
basic PowerPoint, basic computing, computers. We have been using videos. We have been using media posters and so on. But when you want to upgrade that, meaning you have to have more fund. Then it's a question of governance and management to decide how far you are ready. I'm not actually talking to anyone specific, but if this is the question for UIA, for example, so how much is the UIA ready to invest in those things, not only in the technology but also in preparing the humans, yeah, the lecturers, the administrative staff, as well as the student. That requires education, training, and so on. So these are things when you get realistic and you want to use those technologies. These are the questions that we're going to have. So we have no problem in using that, and I think we should start considering, you know, using this VR, which I have used for watching some YouTube videos back home, maybe for some learning activities in campus. But we just need that technologies. And what about learning? Some people have been arguing, no, we have people of different capabilities, but I can share with you, and Faiz was the witness when we have this half-day course workshop on learning Zoom and learning classroom. We have senior professors there who was for the first time knowing about this solution. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised that we actually learn quite fast. Fast. So there is no issue about learning it as long as we plan and propose it properly. Therefore, I don't see other reasons why we don't do that. We can try. But remember, technologies develop. You just need to be smart when you are investing. You don't invest one time, which is so expensive, but you are not going to use it efficiently in the future. That's about it. Now, let me just do maybe some last concluding part. Maybe Dr. Zul also want to conclude after me. Look, we have this agile and disruptive environment around us, whether you are a layman, whether you are a worker, whether you are a student, at certain disciplines, you need to be just embrace those changes, and don't be afraid of losing your job. Of course, job market changes, you know. And I've been telling my students in my cyber law class, when you learn data protection, that is one of the blue ocean that you can swim through and get a benefit in near future. This is one of the new job markets. Yeah, so job markets do change from time to time. Don't worry about your jobs being law professionals, being lawyers, being replaced by robots. People have been telling, are we going to have the same job? Are are robots going to replace us? I have a very short answer for that. Yes, robots will replace you if you start acting like robots. Yeah, if you start acting like robots, yes, you'll be replaced by robots. What does it mean? What does it mean, acting like robots? Acting like robots means you just act according to what you are programmed to do. I have in the morning, waking up at 6, and then I will do this, I will do that. This is like so programmed day for you. And then the moment things change externally, you don't know what to do, because those things go against your routine. Have you watched one of the movie, Lego movie, talking about this? If you are so programmed to do things, and the moment something disruptive happens, you don't know what to do.
Yes.
So you are worse than robot then. Yeah. So being a legal professional, there is a big room for you to go, and don't start acting like robot. And this is an advice applicable to my students as well. Don't start acting like robot, otherwise you'll be replaced by them. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sonny. So reminder to Dr. Sonny's students, don't be like robots. It means that please do not ever copy paste answers and just apply it without any ounce of originality. Maybe Dr. Zul, you want to conclude for like 2 minutes? Maybe some
okay, thank you. When Dr. Sonny talked about robots, I in one of my papers, I ended my articles with, okay, we do not want to robotize the human being. We want to humanize the robot.
That is interesting. It's interesting.
Okay? Yeah, to humanize the robot. Okay, as a conclusions, okay, therefore, I would like to reiterate that, okay, the importance of this kind of discourse. Okay, and we talk about the futures of legal studies. Okay, rather than waiting for someone else or for others to decide or to design the futures for us, we need to think about it, and we will design our own futures. Because the best way to predict the futures is for us to design and to predict the futures. So this kind of discourse by anak muda like Farhan, like Faiz, okay, I really salute, and I really support this kind of initiative. Okay, talking about the future of legal studies, is very important for us, okay, to look, okay, from a big picture. So meaning that, okay, what I want to say is that, okay, in discussing a certain area of themes or topics, okay, we cannot only look, okay, in isolations. We must look from the whole dimensions, and not only that, okay, from holistic perspective, but also from a different angle and from different dimensions. Okay, as Einstein said that you cannot solve a problem from the same consciousness that created it. You must learn to see the world anew. So meaning that, okay, you must learn to see something from a new angle, from new perspective. Okay, and in order to resolve or to address, or in order for us to prepare or to discuss about the future of legal studies, what is more important, okay, on top of the content-wise, the programming, the big data, the data analytics, the artificial intelligence, okay, we admit very important. But what is more important, as Toffler says, okay, the literacy of the 21st century, okay, is not about reading, writing, or calculating. Okay, the literacy of the 21st century, including in legal profession, is that to learn, to unlearn, to relearn, and co-learn. Okay, so meaning that if we want to analyze something, we must look from this angle. Okay, we must be ready to learn, to unlearn, to learn, to co-learn, and also to relearn. So if we can have this kind of literacy, I don't think that we will have problems. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, salam. Thank you so much, Dr. Zul. Thank you so much, Dr. Sonny. I hope that every of our viewers here today would have learned, probably I say a lot about future of legal studies. We've seen from different perspectives. As I would like to just do a quick summary. Dr. Zul talked about the 3 types of law school that we want to create, in which why don't we just create a law school that can create its own future. And then we have Dr. Sonny who talk about the content, what kind of content that we want to teach law students before we have a really insightful input from Brother Mustaqim in regards to the reality of law today, in which we cannot see law on its own. We need to also consider other sectors, because law doesn't stand by its own. It requires other sectors as well to work with. Law cannot be done without any enforcement. Enforcement involves other sectors. Law cannot involve without the legislation. The legislation involves other sectors. So this different kind of view, this different perspective, these different factors need to be put into consideration before we can actually construct our own framework for future laws, for future law students, for future law graduates. How do we want to mend them together? And I'm really, really grateful. I'm really honored. Thank you so much, Dr. Sonny. Thank you so much again, Dr. Zulkifli. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining with us tonight. So with that, I would like to say Assalamualaikum and see you in the next installment of the Youth Foresight Forum.
Thank you very much, Faiz. Thank you, Dr. Sonny.
Thank you, Dr. Zul. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,